Her Excellency Madam Ellen Johnson-Sirleaf, other platform guests and stakeholders of the educational sector, other invited guests, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor to be invited to just a conference meant to look at some of the challenges of our educational sector and what we can do to prepare the next breed of future leaders. We appreciate this opportunity and the recognition. And very recently, the number of consultations that have been going on regarding the review process has to a larger extent caught our attention, and we are very optimistic that things are now on the right footing to make sure that we get the suggestion of all of the key players of the educational sector and find a way forward in crafting a document that represents the suggestion and aspiration of each and every one of us. While it is true that we recognize and appreciate these efforts, we also have our own little reservation as to the timing of this initiative. The comprehensive plan presented by Minister Warner to reform our educational sector, it's something very detailed, and if supported, could to a larger extent do something in cleaning up the mess. But we've been very, very much concerned about what's been happening lately. Just few days to July 31st, some of the schools, especially private schools in this country, has already closed. Some of them have already issued information sheet for the next academic year. Some of them have also graduated their 9th graders with the hope that they will come back and join the 9th graders of next year to take the WAEC examination. Some of them are as well planning to let their 12th graders graduate and come back in September for their diplomas without a formal graduation. While it is true that these consultations go on, we that are the direct beneficiary of any reform in the educational sector are very, very much concerned about these happenings. It makes us to wonder and ask the education minister to please institute a vigilant M&E system where schools or the mandate from the ministry must be implemented by all schools. We've also looked at student willingness these few days to keep reading their lessons, since most of them have been carried away by the news of the closure of schools. And we think students have to some extent felt very discouraged. Students are still appealing that the continuation of this academic year should be considered because they've to a larger extent gone in their activities, and whatsoever system that can be put in place to reboost Saturday classes, whatsoever system that can be put in place to keep them glued to their books, be put in place. This is in no way or disrespect to the enormous effort put in place quite recently by the Ministry of Education and Her Excellency to get everybody to the table. This is also not my personal opinion on what is happening, but instead, this is what I've been asked to say today. Some of my colleagues, I told them, you guys have to come and see this, because I won't be there to further explain to you what I've said here today. They are seated, listening to me, and they've sent me here to once more appeal that looking at the complexity of the issues and the best way to practically institute change now, given the too many constraints, is to let this academic year continue, while basic measures can be put in place, and a revision of how things will go on can be looked at. The county education officers and district education officers can be very vigilant in the monitoring of schools. Books can be distributed, and if possible, plead to our partners to include the private schools in the book distribution, even if it means for private schools to pay a certain amount of the books that will be distributed to their students. But we think majority of the students that must sit WAEC in this country are from the private schools, and therefore their exclusion from this book distribution, TS distribution, and the rest of the other stuffs will be something that will not make the majority of our students to pass the WAEC examinations. This is also in no way an insult to the enormous effort. We respect all of the efforts, but we are appealing once more again on behalf of the students to say, let this academic year continue, and let whatsoever reform that is taking place start to be tested now, and then next academic year, we can start a full-fledged implementation of the policy. Thank you very much.
The Parent Teachers Association.
All of you who spoke, I did get a consensus that everybody agrees that the educational system requires reform. I did not hear any negative when it came to that. There are some that want to slow the process, there are others that want to accelerate the process. There are many that have views about what are the conditions to be able to effect those changes and those reform. But reform, I think, is something that all Liberians want, because we know that everyone wants quality education. So we need to find a way forward on this. I have discussed this with the legislature. All the legislature wants is for us to get a compromise in which our educators say this is what is the right way forward. When students will have a say, but students cannot make the decision. Because as we have to make that decision based upon taking into account some of your views, but at the same time taking into account what's the best thing for you, in keeping with the objective that we all want. And so I've asked him to do that. If there's anyone who wants to, I believe I asked, I don't know if the consultation since the last time we talked, whether that has gone on and whether any consensus has been reached, but that's what we're searching for. We're searching for the right way out of this so that it can be a win-win situation. Like I say, I don't have the answer, but we don't want for us to leave this matter hanging. We don't want to give contradictory instructions that will confuse people even more.